The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Most of the country, including top Republicans, thought the birther issue was dead. But in North Carolina, on the eve of its primaries, the issue is once again very much alive. Long after the matter was put to rest by the facts, several Republican congressional candidates are still questioning President Obama's birthplace. In North Carolina's 9th District race, for example, Jim Pendergraft has said he has, quote, reason to be suspicious about whether President Obama was born in the United States. He also said, quote, generally, when there's smoke, there's got to be fire somewhere. In the state's 8th district, Richard Hudson, who's considered a leading candidate to unseat the current Democratic congressman, told a Tea Party group, quote, there's no question President Obama is hiding something on his citizenship. He's been backing off that comment in recent days, but one of his opponents, Dr. John Whitley, a neurosurgeon, isn't backing down at all. He's called President Obama's birth certificate a, quote, poorly reproduced forgery. How does he know this? He compared it to the Hawaiian birth certificate of one of his staffers. He also said, quote, there is a tremendous amount of smoke here. In fact, it's called a smoke screen. Now, I could go through all the evidence on President Obama's birth certificate point by point, but this has been done already so many times before. Nevertheless, I wanted to talk to Dr. Whitley to see how a doctor, a man of science, could continue to make completely disproven claims about President Obama's citizenship. I spoke to Dr. Whitley earlier. Dr. Whitley, you say that you and your team have confirmed that President Obama's birth certificate, the one that was released in 2011 and certified by the state registrar in Hawaii, was forged. You claim you've confirmed this on your own. How do you do that? Are you a trained expert in historical legal documents of Hawaii?
No, I'm not. No, what we did was we took a bona fide original birth certificate from Hawaii and we subjected it to the same scrutiny that the document experts hired by Sheriff Arpaio did, and we came up essentially with the same results that they did. We were just reproducing what his experts came up with. Right. Their evaluation.
You say he hired. First of all, you say Sheriff Arpaio hired experts. He hired nobody. He had volunteers who were some former investigators, a volunteer posse allegedly working on this. So, do you know by name his document experts?
No, I do not.
So you don't know that he actually had document experts?
I would think that Sheriff Arpaio, who is a great American as far as I'm concerned, he would not ask someone to review a document that he did not feel they were expert and qualified to render opinion, whether they charged for it. In fact, the fact that they did not charge for it, from what you're saying, I believe gives more credence to their results.
What document experts examined the certificate of live birth of the employee who works for you that you believe is a bona fide Hawaii birth certificate?
The individual who has a birth certificate, who is a medical expert in terms of the type of specialty that he's in, which is nuclear medicine. Now, he's not a document expert.
No, but you're saying somebody who works with you, who has a bona fide Hawaii birth certificate. How do you know it's a bona fide Hawaii birth certificate?
I have seen it. I have it. I have ran my fingers across the seal. I have looked at it.
So you're saying seals can't be forged?
Birth certificate.
You're an expert in documents. I mean, I'm curious. You don't believe President Obama's birth certificate, but because you've run your fingers along a raised seal on a document, you believe it's real?
I believe that the birth certificate of the individual who works for me is an accurate, original of his birth certificate.
But you've had no experts examine it, but you've just taken this on faith because you've run your fingers along the raised seal.
Well, I've looked at it and held it in my hand. I take it on faith that this is
so you know that nonpartisan organizations have also looked at the certificate of live birth that President Obama's campaign released in 2008. They ran their fingers along the raised seal as well, and have declared that a legitimate document. You also know that there were that the former health director in the state of Hawaii has testified and given an affidavit that she examined President Obama's birth certificate in their records and that it's legitimate, and that the Republican governor of Hawaii has verified that as well.
Well, I think there's a lot of subjectivity to that. I'm not exactly convinced that is the case. If the original
so it's part of some conspiracy from the governor of Hawaii, the health director of Hawaii, factcheck.org, nonpartisan organizations that have examined that, as well as the state registrar who has confirmed the 2011 document that was released is the actual birth certificate. They're all in some grand conspiracy?
I'm not sure that we have, well, I'm just saying I don't think the document that the White House recently released as a long form of his birth certificate is an actual legitimate copy of the original birth certificate.
But, sir, you know it was verified by the state registrar. So the state registrar of Hawaii, you're saying, is also in on this?
I'm saying that there's a lot of questions that still lend itself to this birth certificate, which is taking us away from really the important issues that we need to be discussing.
Well, sir, you're the one who brought, sir, you're the one who brought these issues up. You have a few $1,000s in your bank account. Isn't this just a desperate attempt to appeal to some folks who may come out and vote tomorrow? Isn't this some sort of desperate? I mean, you're a doctor, you're a smart guy. There's no evidence this is a fake document. I mean, why should anyone believe that the document that some person you know who says they're from Hawaii, why should anybody believe that's real?
Well, this document is here and available for anyone who would like to come and personally look at it, touch it, feel it, feel the seal on the document. They can do that. We cannot do that with the current document out there about President Obama.
Have you run your fingers along President Bush's seal on his birth certificate? I mean, have you raised any objections? Have you looked at his birth certificate?
No, I have not.
No. So it's only this president who you believe you need to examine personally his birth certificate. Have you flown to Hawaii? Have you made any effort to contact the White House and ask for it?
No, I have not.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.